What's going on live? Reaching out to you guys. I know that it's been a while since I've been in the Cadillac. I just wanted to go ahead and bring Big Shirley out, because sometimes Big Shirley will start acting kind of funny whenever you don't give her a little bit of time. I wanted you guys to see what the Cadillac is all about. I know that you guys probably haven't seen the Cadillac, but there go the back seats. Man, look how beautiful those back seats are. 1990 Cadillac. Got everything, back seats looking good, front seats. We just hanging out in the Cadillac. A lot of people going through withdrawals. A lot of people, especially in the world of the opiates, a lot of people don't really understand withdrawal. And so a lot of times people are trying to jump on medications too early. And what they don't understand is whenever you jump on a medication way too early, it can send you straight into withdrawal. But whenever we look at withdrawal is way more than just the physical. Most people only think of the physical, like the yearning to use something, all the physical stuff. When people start getting to the point where they just cannot go without it. And so, yeah, that is the withdrawal that most people know about. That's the withdrawal that people talk about, especially whenever we look at the big picture. We look at the big picture of what people go through. Most people are trying to get from underneath the withdrawal symptoms. But what they don't realize is within the withdrawal symptoms, after the first 14 days, there's a whole process that's medical. People tend to fall short just because they don't understand the big picture of withdrawal. So when you look at, your neurotransmitters for a while, it's kind of like, let's act like the neurotransmitters, your dopamine, your serotonin, your norepinephrine, is more like a wife. And whenever you start using that drug, or you use a drug, alcohol, anything that's fat soluble. So all of the drugs that normally you can use that will get you intoxicated are normally fat soluble. So whenever they're fat soluble, they can get in the brain and they can affect the way that you feel. It can stimulate you or it can depress you, whatever the basis of that drug is. And so when we look at that like a girlfriend, anytime you start using the substance, when you start using that substance more, imagine if that's your girlfriend, your wife stops really wanting to be around you or to kind of participate. So normally what happens with the neurotransmitters is they stop really working properly. And when they stop working properly, it's because you're starting to feel good by other means. And whenever you hijack those neurotransmitters, then you have to start using more often, more regularly. And then whenever you start to use more often, that's when you start to get the dependence, and that's when you start to build up your tolerance. But this is the key. Normally, whenever you stop using, the main reason why you are starting to feel the way you feel is based on the metabolism. So whenever we get to the point where we're using every single day, the metabolites and the enzymes, they start to create the pattern so that you will start to, you will be prepared for that drug to enter the body. And so a lot of times whenever we get into that mindset of using every single day, as soon as you wake up, your body starts to prepare itself so that it will be able to metabolize the drug that you put in your system. This is the reason why people normally overdose whenever they come out of like jails or in controlled environments. That's why when I worked for the health department, I worked so hard to get drugs into the like Vivitrol, getting Vivitrol into the jail, so that when people leave, that metabolism that is not regulating and preparing for use will be null and void. So whenever you start to use those drugs more often, the neurotransmitters kind of stop working, And then when that starts, so it takes about 14 days for your neurotransmitters to kind of start to recognize that you're no longer using a drug. And I would tell people, whenever they're starting to come off of a substance, make sure that they at least make it the 14 days to give yourself the opportunity to let yourself start to feel good on its own. But a lot of times people kind of interrupt that, and what happens is they start to feel worse again, and then they start getting back into active addiction. So the one thing that I really want you guys to really think about is looking at the withdrawal symptoms after the 14 days. After the 14 days is normally called the honeymoon. And within the honeymoon, a lot of people start to get to that point where they start to feel they feel happy, they feel excited. And to be honest, this is the reason why sometimes I have issues with 28-day programs, because a lot of people go into these 28-day programs and they feel like they come out. And if you really understand the calendar of withdrawal, whenever they get out of that 30-day program, normally they're in the middle of the honeymoon, which then makes them feel like they got the plan down, they have an understanding of where they want to go in life. But what they don't realize, if they don't really connect into another program or they start to really work the process, a lot of times they're going to relapse around the 14th day after leaving that treatment. So they'll probably put together about 14 good days, about 2 good weeks. And I promise you, most likely the percentage of them to relapse, if they're not in a program or working a program, they're more susceptible to relapse during that next 14 days. And so with that, your neurotransmitters are at an all-time high in between about 14 days to about 45 days. And as long as it's at an all-time high, it's starting to replace all of that girlfriend, like the drugs, all that stuff that was making you feel good. It kind of cranks it back. But the problem is it doesn't know what the balance is. So it's going to create more than what you normally have been making. And a lot of times people try to get diagnosed with mental health issues during these points of treatment. And a lot of times it can cause some misdiagnosis just because of the withdrawal process. So I would tell anybody that's going to a psychiatrist, make sure that your psychiatrist is really fundamentally sound on substance use, because they can diagnose you with bipolar, they can diagnose you with different anxieties and depressions that really aren't, they're kind of a pseudo symptom of the withdrawal. And so a lot of times people go and they say, oh, I've been diagnosed with bipolar. But did you tell them that you were you were just like in the last 30 days was in a cocaine use? Because sometimes some of those drug uses, the withdrawals can kind of look like the symptoms of other things. So really make sure that you get to a psychiatrist that has a really good understanding of what mental health and substance abuse combine, how to treat that. And so the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, like, after the 45 days. A lot of people think that just because you get out of the physical withdrawals, like, you're good. You are good to some extent, because you're not craving, you're not jonesing for a substance. But the problem is the mental is about to kick in. And whenever we get outside that 45 days and we start to, what's going to happen is your neurotransmitters aren't going to make as much as it was before. And so with that, you're going to start getting miserable again. And that's the wall. And that is the main thing that I want to talk to you guys about. The wall is 45 days to about 50 days after you finish using the last substance. And this is for family members. This is for anybody who is involved with someone that's using a substance. Really watch that 45 day, between 45 and about 90 days. they're going to go up and they're going to go down. They're going to feel good one day, they're going to feel bad. And so with that, that's whenever you really got to watch. Make sure that the person, or make sure that you are continuously working your program, that you're going to meetings, that you're doing all of the things that you need to do to stay sober. Because if you don't put those things in place, by the time you get to that 45-day range, you're going to be playing catch up, and it's usually not going to play out well for you. I've been doing this business and counseling for over 19 years, and I'm telling you, I've seen this play out over and over. And a lot of people think that they can just outsmart addiction and withdrawal, but it's not. It's not about outsmarting it. It's about planning for it. And so with that, I want you guys to start planning for the first 90 days of treatment, of looking through the dopamine levels, and then look at how you feel, because once you start to process how you feel, you'll start to feel a lot better. So just reaching out to you, giving you a little nugget of information, what I call nuggets of love, is just look at the process. You're going to withdraw. You're going to go through the first stage of physical, but there's post-acute withdrawal that can last almost up to a year. And sometimes if you take psychedelic drugs, they can pop up years after using. So I don't want to go through all the drugs and that. I'm here for you guys. If you're going through withdrawal, if you're about to go through withdrawal, contact me and I'll make sure that I will get all the information to you. I know rehabs that will take you at any time. Get a hold of me. Love you guys. Hanging out again. It's David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor.